What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. If this is your first time, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. Do it! I post videos every week. Speed drawings, tutorials, product reviews. So if you know what's good for you, hit the subscribe button. In this video, I'm going over 5 tips to drawing, painting, whatever, a character. I use these 5 basic principles in every creation that I do. Whether it's painting on a canvas, whether it's using alcohol markers on paper, whatever. There's a set 5 steps that I take every time to make sure that the final piece looks as good as I want it to in my head. Because if I try to draw something from just in my melon with no steps, it would turn out garbage, I promise. Everybody's kind of got their own method, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people who are self-taught kind of just develop their own way of going about their design. But I promise you, these 5 steps that I use are simple, they're straightforward, and if you repeat this process over time, your artwork will just be beautiful, baby, beautiful, I tell you. First things first, find you a reference, something that resonates with you. And for those of you that are like,
"But Billy, isn't it copying somebody's artwork?"
No, not really, because in the end, your art is not going to look like your reference. And typically, it's not just one picture. Like when I'm looking, I don't look for just one picture. I find 4 or 5 different things that resonate with me, and then I take little elements out of each one and I kind of incorporate it into one, And a lot of times, I'm just sitting there like, nope, can't draw that. That is not even my style. Next. That would take till next Christmas to get all those lines. You serious? Next. So I spend a lot of time debating on what it is I want to do, but find a reference. Sometimes this is the hardest part. Step number 2 is to sketch it on paper. This is the very first and most important step, I promise you. This is all about finding the shapes, sketching out the shapes. You're not paying attention to detail here, you know what I mean? You're getting the overall blueprint that you need so that you can get the black lines. And this is the point where you can add changes to your reference. Like if you find something that you like and you don't want to copy someone else's artwork, exactly, change it up. Change little elements of your sketch before you actually add the black ink.
So once you go black, you can't go back, I tell you.
Step number 3 to create a character easy, whether you're painting or you're using markers, go over your sketch once you have it all, lined out the way you want, and make sure that your lines are visible and not too light. Make sure your lines are visible, and then go over it with like a 0.3 or 0.5 small black marker. Or you can use a really dark pencil, whatever you want to use. The world is your oyster, baby. But this really solidifies your proportions and makes it so that you can have a really nice actual finished piece. And once you have your black outline done with the small marker, then you want to go in with your fatter Sharpie or whatever outliner that you use and go over your lines. Typically I use like a fatter liner on the outside of the piece, and then I leave smaller lines inside. Did that even make sense? And number 5, of course, is color. Because life is so bland without color. Pick your colors. You can also change up your reference at this point too, because you don't got to use the colors and you're not going to use the same shades. But take your time. If you use alcohol markers, spend some time swatching it on a page, blending, seeing what works, seeing what gives you good transitions and gradients and all that. Same thing with painting, right? Or any illustration, in my opinion. And this works especially for my style, but nobody just really thinks from their head what they're gonna draw and then do it in one attempt. It's definitely a layering process. Because if you don't use a reference or anything like that, you're just going from the knowledge that you already have in your own head. I feel like when you use a reference point, you're learning as you're creating. You're taking ideas, having to apply different techniques, you know what I mean? I feel like if I just tried to draw straight out of my own brain, I would just draw like a stick figure. Like a really complex stick figure. I'm rambling, so let's do a top-down look, and I'm going to show you what I mean, and I'm going to break down these steps. Oh yeah, and make sure to like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it, comment down below, let me know what you think, and you already know what to do with that subscribe button.
Go on and smack it.
Alright, let's do it. Alright, so check it out. Step number 1, the reference. This is how you come up with inspiration on what you're going to draw or paint or whatever. Again, this can be the most challenging part for some people because, like me, some days nothing sticks at all. I'm constantly searching, trying to find inspiration, and sometimes I find a reference within minutes. But basically, you're just building your visual library, and the more English is hard. The more references that you observe, the faster you build your technique. So, but don't copy, just take elements from different designs and build your idea. All right, step number 2, the sketch, the blueprint, the first layer. The most annoying part of the whole process actually for me, but this is the part where you need the most self-confidence, because it's gonna get messy, it's gonna get ugly, it's gonna get erased. Just keep trying and try to focus on the larger shapes that you see. You may get frustrated and discouraged because you feel like you don't have the skills to take your messy little sketch to the final stage, but Billy, calm down. Take a breath, Billy. Take a breath. This is the part that requires the most tender love and care, so don't rush it, okay? Yeah, namaste. Shoot, if you don't feel like it, don't sketch. Don't draw, don't force it. Go watch a movie or something. Call your mom, I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. Yeah, but I'm drawing Gohan in this one from Dragon Ball Z. And as you can see, for the second step, I'm really making sure that my lines, my shapes, my proportions, they all look similar to my reference. And be loose with it. You don't want to try and sketch with one dark, frigid line. You want light, multiple strokes with like a H3 light pencil so that you can find the line when you're ready to go darker, you know what I mean? So remember, this is all about layering. But now that I've got my proportions created, I've gone in, I went ahead and I erased a little bit so that when I go over my liner it doesn't smudge. But going with the Copic multi-liner 0.5, really good quality. And then also I'm going to use a Sharpie liner as well. This is really good. I noticed that the ink in like a Sharpie is really permanent, so it doesn't smudge really at all. Really love Sharpie. But yeah, so this is step 3. Step 1, you found your reference. Step 2, you sketched out your blueprint. Now step 3, it's time to go in with a very fine liner to solidify your outline. This is my favorite part. So I'm starting with Copic 0.5 fine liner and then also using a fine liner Sharpie. And then I'm going to go over the outsides of Gohan's figure with a thicker black Sharpie. But yeah, black lines matter, y'all. So take your time with this one. Don't rush your outline. Even if you have beautiful colors, if your outline looks rocky, it'll severely take away from the overall design. So getting straight lines takes time and practice, but just visualize your straight line before you do it. You know, don't hold your breath. Refrain from pushing too hard on the liners as well. This creates like a jagged, inconsistent line. So if you just relax and kind of go with the flow, man, it comes out much more fluid. So, but like I said, taking the bigger Sharpie now and going over the outside of his body, you know, his hair, his fists, all that good stuff to actually to really lock in Gohan's aesthetic. But black Sharpie is amazing. You know, you don't gotta buy no $30 crazy black marker to outline your stuff. Just use a Sharpie if that's all you got. But yeah, I'm keeping the creases in his pants and his uniform and the lines on his face small, because if I were to go over all that in bigger Sharpie, it would just turn out looking so weird and unnatural and not Gohan. So when emulating a character, the thickness of the lines are just as important as the placement of them, so be selective on the thickness of your liner. And by the way, that was step 4, actually outlining the whole thing, not the whole thing, but places that need to be outlined in thick marker to really solidify it. Step 4, make sure you do that before you start coloring. And of course, step 5 is to actually color. But you know, whatever medium you use, whether it's colored pencil, alcohol markers, water-based markers, paint, take some time before you actually start coloring, because you never want to blindly just trust the color on the lid. So swatch out the colors, see what works. So I didn't get it on video, but I actually quickly drew up like a janky, shady Walmart version of Gohan and just used that to get like a better visual of how the colors would actually look on my actual outline. So I just colored in that first to see. So I spent like 15 minutes trying to actually find his skin tone, and even then I don't think it's light enough. But you know, it doesn't have to be complicated. I used 2 shades of orange for the suit, 2 shades of purple for his wristbands and belts and stuff, and then 2 shades of beige for his actual skin. Oh, and an extra little quick tip. If you don't want to go through like the hassle of having to design a whole background, because the background does really help your character pop, this is a simple little tip that I recommend. Just choose a really nice contrasting color and just go over the actual illustration, especially if it's like a character or something. I would recommend doing that. Definitely adds some depth to the character and really makes him pop out of the page. So alright, so there we have it, guys. The 5 tips that I use every time I go to design something. Do these 5 things over and over again, and you'll teach yourself what you don't know that you need to know. Does that make sense? You're an amazing artist either way. You have the talent, you got this. But thanks so much for watching. Like it if you liked it or learned anything at all. Oh, and by the way, guys, if you want to see a really in-depth tutorial on blending with alcohol markers to make your designs look super vivid and juicy, go on, click right here on the screen now and check that out. But until next time, thank you so much. Peace.